Tonight, a study by 2 university professors on the National Security Agency. The findings show prolonged and aggressive surveillance techniques used to monitor mosques and Islamic centers. And a quest for justice.
The family members intend to sue bring a wrongful death lawsuit based on these new revelations that have now finally been substantiated.
Family of Malcolm X, the late human rights activist, files lawsuit against law enforcement agencies for concealing evidence in the leader's murder more than 50 years ago. The sad truth about mistreating elders in Muslim communities. Shaukat Rizvi explains the hidden effects of elder abuse.
Just to give you a statistic, about 10% of seniors have reported about the elder abuse to their different authorities. But unfortunately, in our community, we are very shy of reporting it and reluctant.
Assalamu alaikum and good evening. This is Muslim News Canada on Muslim Network TV. I am Catherine Bullock. A recent study titled Anti-Muslim Surveillance, Canadian Muslims' Experiences with CSIS examines how the National Security Agency adopts anti-Muslim tactics. Conducted by 2 Canadian university professors, the study interviews 95 Muslim community leaders from 5 major Canadian cities about their interactions with CSIS. The findings show that the National Security Agency uses peculiar surveillance practices, assessing any religious expression as a potential terror threat. The study reveals that CSIS carries out mass surveillance of Muslim communities, treating them with suspicion. It treats mosque and Islamic centers as grounds for breeding terrorism. It uses aggressive surveillance strategy on who enters and exits these centers. The family of Malcolm X, who was a prominent Muslim American human rights activist, is seeking a $100 million compensation in a wrongful death lawsuit against the New York Police Department, the FBI, and the CIA for allegedly concealing evidence in their murder investigation. The news came on his 58th death anniversary this Tuesday in a memorial in New York, where the activist was shot dead. In November 2021, 2 men who spent more than 20 years for the death of the late activist were exonerated after previously withheld evidence by law enforcement was uncovered. Malcolm X embraced Sunni Islam in 1964 and became known as Al-Hajj Malik al-Shabazz. Google has begun what it calls a test run on blocking news content from Canadian users in response to a government news bill. Bill C-18, also known as the Online News Act, will allow Canadian media outlets to be compensated by digital giants like Google and Meta for using their content. Both Google and Meta have objected to the bill. Google says it is limiting news content for under 4% of Canadians to assess the response to the bill. The limitation is for 5 weeks and is applicable to both its search engine and Discover feature on Android devices. Israel has announced that Omani authorities have agreed to allow Israeli civil flights to use the Gulf country's airspace. The move came after months of talks with Oman. According to the Israeli Foreign Ministry, flying through Omani airspace will shorten flight durations and lessen ticketing costs. The Israeli foreign minister called the step, quote, a historic decision that will shorten the road to Asia. He thanked the United States for its engagement in the talks that led to Oman's approval. In August last year, Israel obtained Saudi approval to use the kingdom's airspace. Oman and Saudi Arabia do not have formal relations with Israel. The Quran asks Muslims to be kind to their parents, and respect for their elderly is one of the highest Islamic virtues. What then about elder abuse in the Muslim community? What is causing it? How widespread is it? How can we address it? To talk to us about the issue, we are joined by Brother Shaukat Rizvi, founder of Seniors Forum Canada and Vice Chairman of the Board of Directors of the Ontario Society of Seniors Citizen Organisations. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the show. Brother Shaukat, welcome. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you, Sister Kathy, for inviting me.
Very welcome. This is a very unfortunate topic that we have to shed light on, elder abuse. Can you tell us how you came to want to be interested in this topic?
Well, we have this Seniors Forum, which we established about 4 years ago, and we are more than 300-400 people who are members joining us. And we do come across these issues with the seniors living with their in-laws, daughter, or son, or other people. So then we started looking into it deeply and trying to understand what it is. And we realized that this is really a big problem, even in Canada. Luckily, there are certain rules and regulations which protects, which help us to curb the elder abuse.
I think that a lot of people watching in the Muslim community will be surprised to hear you say that it's widespread in the Muslim community. Talk to us about why we aren't more aware of the issue.
Yeah, it is a very serious and a growing issue. Just to give you a statistic, about 10% of seniors have reported about the elder abuse to their different authorities. But unfortunately, in our community, we are very shy of reporting it and reluctant because of two reasons. One is the cultural reason, and secondly, out of love we have for our children. So I have noticed that majority of Muslim people who were subjected to elder abuse are reluctant to report because they think that if they report, then their children will be harmed, and they don't want to be harmed, and they take the shot. So reporting in our community is less. And now what's happening, the old parents are coming here now. They are already old and they have a lot of issues with them and living with their daughter-in-law or son-in-law, things like that. And unfortunately, though we have been taught to live with a joint family, respect elder as per Quran also, but sometimes the behavior of their son-in-law, daughter-in-law, or other husband, other relative is not appropriate. So they are subjected to elder abuse. But I talked to many of them. When I said, let me report it, they said, no, please don't do it. I don't want my son going to be investigated or my daughter-in-law going to be asked by the police. So we are not reporting it. But it is.
I mean, it's normal. I mean, parental love for the child, that totally makes sense. But before we get into that side, just talk to us a little bit more about what's happening in the homes. What have you learned from talking to seniors?
Actually, they report sometimes physical abuse, which is there, unfortunately, where they cannot explain their some sort of injury. They can't explain it, but they don't want to report it. Then the majority of them are subjected to the psychological abuse. Then they have also financial abuses, and I've learned and heard many people that some of the seniors were subjected to the financial abuse by their own family member. Now, surprisingly, one very important information, that 33% of the reported cases of elder abuse they were victimized by their own family member.
And when you say financial abuse, what does that look like?
What happened? I mean, the mother-in-law, the father-in-law, they trust that the son-in-law, daughter-in-law ask them to help them on doing the online banking or gives a credit card, and then they find out that that person is taking out the money from the account, or taking them to expensive restaurant and expensive shopping and say, you want to do shopping, and at the end they find out that they're losing the money. So we have a physical abuse, we have a financial abuse, we have a psychological abuse.
Give us an example of psychological abuse.
You see, when you are felt that you are no more important, you are not needed, right? Okay, your advice, you know nothing about it. We know everything. You don't listen to them. These are totally contradictory to our culture, which we were not, subjected to in the past with the parents, So that is, and the feeling that before they were the main person on the driving seat, they were the main earning member. Now, since they are not, so they are dependent on the people, and that makes them very difficult. And when they are hearing from the children occasionally about these things, you don't know this thing, you are too expensive, you don't listen to us, you're spending money. This really hurts their ego, it hurts the feeling.
And you had a seminar at a mosque where
Yes,
you tried to raise the issue of this elder abuse in the community. What were the main topics that you covered?
Yeah, okay, yeah. This was our second seminar. We did at Al Falah, and there are about 100 people, and we invited intentionally the speaker from other community, non-Muslim community, invited. And what we wanted to convey first, what is the perspective of Quran about this elder abuse? And we all know very well, what is the respect for the parents after obeying Allah Ta'ala? They are the one who has to be obeyed for right thing. So that was explained to them through some like a shiokh and say leader like Dr. Iqbal Nadwi and Khatib Amir. And then we invited somebody who is a subject specialist who has been conducting this seminar for the last 10 years, their organization, and have mentioned about it. They came out and they explained what it is and what can be done. Then I presented basically what is elder abuse, what type of elder abuse, who are the people who are subjected to that, and who are causing the elder abuse. And also I talk about the law. Unfortunately, there is no law about this elder abuse, but there are different law in different category. So then we mention about the resources, what's available, and luckily there are a lot of resources which our community people are not aware of that, where they can report it and get a relief.
And the resources is beyond reporting, I'm assuming, something that a person who might not want to report to the police, but can tap into a resource.
Right, there are resources where they can get a counseling or guidance, where they are not going for a legal case, not harming the accuser, but giving them comfort how to handle it, how to manage it. So it was about 3 hours of workshop, well attended, very much like so creating awareness in a society, letting them know what it is and how can we address it.
And what were the participants saying? Are people saying, I'm really shocked this is going on, or are they more sort of aware that's why they attended? And the question then is, what can we do about it?
Yeah, actually, they were really shocked when we presented. One of the speakers presented a real case studies with the video and with the recording. They cannot believe that this can also happen to the parents or to the elder.
When you were talking to fellow seniors in your seniors forum, and this is at the beginning of our interview, you said this is how you've come to know about it. I'm assuming they must trust you a lot to open up about something that's
luckily my community knows me for the last 5 years. I'm doing this thing without any my personal interest, so I get a lot of trust. Not only that, if they have any problem concerning seniors, they contact me knowing that I may refer them, and I try to refer them to the right person. So they trust, and I know there's certain family. They really trust me. They know what's going on, and I don't mention, but I tell them, I can get you support from the government, from other organization, because I know some people from police, but majority of them, they don't agree. We don't want to report it. We want to live like that. We want to move out to the shelter. Please help us to do this thing. The owner of the house was kicked out by the daughter-in-law, and he's living on the street. One mother-in-law was very sick, and can't talk, and she was a Alzheimer's patient, and there was nobody to offer the food or medicine. So I requested some of my colleagues in the area, please go and give them thing, because his son has been kicked out from the house. And so there are very, very painful story, real story in our family. Very, very painful.
There are painful stories. It's the same with child abuse and the husband, like domestic abuse as well.
That's right.
I think we're almost out of time, but do you have any solution or hope that you could offer someone who might be watching how to tackle this?
I think first we should recognize what is elder abuse. We take it very lightly. It is something very serious. Any if you're hurting a feeling of anybody, that is an elder abuse, his ego. So first we have to understand. Secondly, we have to understand the sign of elder abuse. We also talk about it. What are the different signs of depression and the thing, which are very obvious.
Mm.
And thirdly, we should discuss and report it to the authorities. Not necessarily that we can go to the police directly, but there are counseling, there's a help, you can call them, they can guide you what to do. But at a stage, you don't have to live with that. There is a lot of protection provided here in Canada, where people can get support and can get a relief, which
Well,
our community is not aware of that. So we are posting this information on our website also, sinusforum.com website, where people can see what are the resources, what are the sign of elder abuse, who are the possible abuser, and what can be done.
well, we encourage anyone who wants to know more to contact you. Thanks for joining us to talk about this unfortunate issue in our community.
Thank you, Kathy. I think it's a very important issue. People are not talking about it, but I tell you, it is as the elder population is growing to 25%.
And I'm
And
really sorry I have to cut you because we are out of time. I'm sorry for that. Thanks for joining us today.
thank you.
If you like what we do, please share, like, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Good night. Assalamu alaikum.